So hope my slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you so much for a nice introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. Respected organizers of the IoT Academy, faculty participants from various institutions, hearty welcome to the national level FDP on quality teaching and learning in higher educational institutions. So I take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting me as today's resource person, and myself, Dr. Rashmi, and I will be delivering the topic e-content development for teaching. So we are all aware of the fact that teaching is a passionate process which involves active participation of the learners, as well as the teachers. They need to interact with the learners. They need to transmit knowledge to the learners. So it is based on several aspects. But an effective teaching coupled with the adequate use of technology enhances quality, as well as in this quality teaching contributes to the effective learning as well. So it is the need of the hour that the higher educational institutions they need to implement the various e-content methodologies in teaching. And we, the teaching fraternity, we need to have a proper orientation in how to develop the e-content. So thus e-content has become a very effective tool and propaganda. I must say that it is definitely a tool and propaganda to deliver the content graphically, visually, with the help of text, images, audio, video, and so on. So with this, I'm moving on to my presentation. So these are the key topics I would like to cover during the course of my presentation. I will define what is e-content. Next, I will provide I will establish e-content as an effective tool for teaching. I will be touching upon the different types of e-content. And next, I will be dealing with the various steps involved in the development of e-content. Then I'll be sharing some of the major tips so as how to create an e-content. Then how to create e-content using various multimedia tools. So in this session, I'll be introducing the various tools, the examples of tools relevant, highly relevant in present day society. And towards the end, I will also be providing a sample e-content development based on a particular topic. And towards the end, I will be discussing upon the outcomes of e-content development. So this is the framework of my presentation. Yes. So what is e-content? Electronic content or digital content. So you can call it whatever the way you like. And this is actually the content. When you deliver or when you prepare a content or a piece of information in the electronic or digital format, you can call it as an e-content. So the mere preparation of an e-content is not sufficient. You need to deliver to a group of audience, especially the targeted audience, that is your students. Maybe the students studying at the UG level or PG level, or the research scholars, the doctoral students, so whatever it may be. So it is very essential that preparation of e-content is as much important as the delivery of the e-content. And for this delivery, we need to rely on various network-based electronic devices like laptops, computers, desktops, mobile phones, smartphones, etc. So e-content, it generates an individualized as well as flexible forms of learning, because as teachers we can we had experienced the online teaching scenario approximately 2 to 3 years back, definitely approximately, yes, during the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. Suddenly the The physical classrooms were shut and we were forced to take classes through the virtual mode. So most of the students, as from my experience, I can say that only half of the students will attend these online sessions and the remaining half will definitely they will make some kind of excuses. So to reach the entire group of targeted audience, we started preparing e-content, or rather the resource materials relevant to the topics of teaching in our own possible ways. So this is how we began developing e-content, and so as such it could generate an individualized form of learning where the student as an individual can learn according to his or her pace. He can learn as per his or her convenience. So the flexibility is a very important hallmark of e-content, and there are various platforms which propagates e-content. One is the web-based learning. Web-based learning, that's the resources from the web to create meaningful and effective learning or interactive environment. That is, online learning is otherwise known as web-based learning. Next is the computer-based learning. When computer becomes the medium to articulate the content, we call it as computer-based learning. Then we have the application of smartphones or mobile phones. Then we call it as mobile-based learning. Next comes the virtual classrooms. Again, the online classrooms. We used to share notes using Google Classrooms. Then we have several other applications which I will be introducing along with the course of my presentation. So this virtual classroom is another online is another environment being created by this online mode, whereby teaching becomes effective with the development of e-content. And next is the digital collaboration. So digital collaboration also enhances and exchanges the teaching learning process through either the use of computers or mobile phones and other digital platforms. So in this slide, I'm going to establish, or I'm going to trace the beginning of e-content, or rather how or when e-content becomes very prominent. So the rapid development, when you trace the past years, we could see, especially when we moved from the 20th century to the present 21st century, we have seen rapid development in information and communication technology, and as in any other fields, we could see the dominance of ICT. Likewise, the ICT has been integrated very effectively at all levels of education, right from the primary level to the secondary, higher secondary, and even at the level at the higher education level. So this ICT actually triggered the growth of e-content development. And regarding the educational system as well, we could really sense out the major differences, or in the sense that earlier it was merely teacher-centered. The classroom was merely teacher-centered. The role of the teacher was merely that of a lecturer. But right now, we can say that the role of the teacher has been shifted from mere lecturing to facilitators. They definitely teach the students, but it's not just like giving them everything in the spoon-like method, but rather facilitating them or guiding them. The teachers are guides and facilitators. They are good motivators. So they need to impart the knowledge to the students in all their best possible ways, and for that they are, rather than increasing the role of the teachers, they have stepped down and give more importance to the student participation. So the learning environment has entirely shifted from teacher to the students. And further, we are teaching to a group of students who are highly oriented in technology. A question may be arised: who is more prone to technology, whether the students or the teachers? So right now we are facing a group of students who are really good at the technological tools, the digital gadgets. Then they know each and everything about the technology. So as teachers, we should not stand far away from the students' level of knowledge. We should also try our level best to compete with the students, or in a way to show that we are also having adequate knowledge in technology. For this, the development of e-content is very essential, very key indicator. And after analyzing these aspects, we can say that this e-content is nowadays becoming a very highly resourceful and potential tool. To prepare an e-content is not an easy. You need to do a good deal of homework. You need to prepare the points from the various sources available on the web or from your textbook, whichever the e-journals or articles or whatever be the source. Yes, so once you prepare the e-content, it may take a few days, and in some, if you are really an experienced person, it maybe you can prepare a e-content running for 5 minutes within 1 day itself, but it involves much dedication and much hard work. And once it is transmitted to the audience, it becomes a very potential tool for learning process. So thus, e-content is an effective tool to disseminate the information in the present era. Now let us see the different forms and types of e-content. So e-content is not a monolithic or a single based entity. It has got its different types and branches, as we could see over here, the different forms of e-content. The visual, among the visual, we have the two subcategories, that is images and graphics together constitute the component called the visual component. Then we have text either in the Word format or PDF format. Then we have the rich internet applications. It's a kind of software. And then we have games. Games in the sense it's not purely entertainment games, but the educational games, which enables the students to think logically, to critically analyze, and as such, it's very educational oriented. Then we have the e-journals. So these are the different variations of e-content. Then we have the database, when the data is collected and electronically stored in the system, as we could retrieve information from various sources through browsing. So that we call it as database. Then presentations like PPTs, then audio, videos, then animations. Then we have the e-books, where we have energized books, that is embedded with QR code, is known as energized books. Then we have virtual reality as well as augmented reality. So virtual reality, it deals only with the virtual world, the fictional world, whereas augmented reality deals with both the real as well as the fictional world. So we have ample sources, platforms of e-content. Now, how we can choose a topic for e-content? So this is again a very crucial question. So first, just like fixing a topic for a seminar presentation or for doing a PhD research or a postdoc research, first of all, we have to identify an area. It is from this area we have to narrow it down and fix a particular topic. And based on this, we have to work on this particular topic, and we have to convert it into an interesting format. The format, why the word interesting is very important, is that, yes, if it is not interesting, it will be simply delivered to the students, and the students will give you a very bad feedback. So once you prepare the content, if you feel the sense of satisfaction, then that definitely shows that your e-content is going to create a good impact for the targeted students. So it must be engaging, it must be appealing, and as well as it must also follow the principle of interactive teaching. Yes, so once you prepare this e-content and you deliver it to the audience, actually you record the session, or you prepare the PPT, and you share with their students, either through WhatsApp or mail or whatever the platform may be, YouTube or so on. So, but the students, even though the teacher is absent or the teacher's presence is not as much visible in the physical classroom, but when the student either read the document or watch the video or hear the audio clip, these are all the examples of e-content. They must feel that the teacher is actually making an interaction with the students, just like the physical classroom. You can ask questions in between. You can give some more, make the teaching more interactive with the help of examples, real life experiences, then situations, and so on. So what are the major requirements for choosing a topic for the e-content? Expert knowledge in your subject area is very necessary, and you have to go for a thorough preparation on the topic. Then you can use little bit creativity as well. You need not to be a highly creative person in preparing the content, but you should know how to logically arrange the sequence and structure. Yes, it's necessary that anything that need to be articulated or need to be organized will maintain or is likely to undergo a proper structure. So the sense of creativity in structuring and sequencing the topics is another important requirement. Now, these are the characteristics of good e-content. It must be visually and pleasing. Yes, there must be a pleasing outlook for the good e-content. It doesn't mean that you have to crowd your e-content with as many pictures as possible. Overcrowding is not an effective characteristic of the good e-content, but it must have little bit visual sense. Then you must be able to connect with the audience. That's very important. The audience must not feel that, yes, the teacher is talking strange things and she's trying to elaborate or she's trying to take the audience to the different realm or a different world. It should not be like that. The objectives must be clearly stated in the e-content. The audience should feel that there is an element of connectivity between the teacher and the students. The next, it must follow the interactive principle. As I said before, yes, interactive principle is very essence of a good e-content. Now, next, clear learning objectives. As we have seen in the syllabus being prescribed by the universities or colleges or autonomous institutions, the clear learning objectives will be stated along with the division of modules and chapters. We have this experience. So similarly, a good e-content must also set forth the clear learning objectives, and further the content must be focused. If you have already identified an area, you are going to speak about the particular, you have narrowed down to a particular topic, so you must have a clear focus on it, and your content must be delivered in a simplified way. Using high sounding language or high sounding vocabularies and phrases will never make the students understand, and they will lose interest in watching or hearing or reading through the e-content. So as teachers, we used to deliver the content in the simpler or simplest ways as possible. It's also a very essential characteristic and tip. Next, we have to utilize the time and space. Yes, so a good content needs to maintain the principle of time and space. That is, it must have a certain time framework. If the attention span of the students, as we all know in the real life classroom itself, they won't listen to something beyond the half an hour. They will become little bit disturbed. So their attention span of the students is less. So the teacher should have a clear focus on the time being spent for creating a particular e-content, and whether if the time is less, the students will have a tendency to go through the content, but you have to give space to the other aspects as well. That is the important aspects as well. And ultimately, the teacher needs to have experience the feel of satisfaction. Yes, so And this satisfaction is not only meant for teachers, it's also for the students as well. Yes, with the help of this e-content, I'm able to grasp, or I'm able to comprehend this particular aspect. So this sense of satisfaction is very essential criteria of a good e-content. Next, I would like to introduce the different phases and stages in e-content development. So the e-content development is can be prepared, or it undergoes through several phases or stages. So this effective delivery is based on these phases in particular, which we call it as ADDIE model. That is analysis phase. The first is the analysis phase. Second is the design phase. Third is the development phase. Then next comes the testing phase, followed by implementation phase, and finally evaluation phase, which I will be explaining in detail. So this is the analysis phase, which is otherwise called as the planning phase. As for every good things, at the outset, we will plan things. So similarly, the preparation of e-content also involves a planning phase. That is the analysis phase. So here, what kind of analysis should be focused? The need analysis and audience analysis. When I use the word need analysis, we must be able to know the need. That is, why do we choose the particular area, or we need to understand about the current status of the learner's understanding. Do they have any previous knowledge about it? If you feel that they do not have, you have to incorporate the previous knowledge in your presentation. Then you have to include the prerequisite skills, then level of the target audience. As I said in the beginning, that whether they are the undergraduate students or postgraduate students or research scholars. So based on the target audience, you can make it simplify, or you can make it a little bit elaborative, or you can make it more critically interpretative, and so on. And finally, you have to plan about the delivery method. Once you prepare the e-content, which should be your platform to deliver the e-content. So all these aspects will be analyzed in the analysis phase of the planning phase. So the instructional problem is clarified at this phase. The instructional goals and objectives are also established, and the learning environment is identified. So this is all about the analysis of the planning phase. And the important questions frequently asked in the analysis phase: who your learners are? What are the overall goals you are trying to achieve? What are the overall knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors that need to be taught? What is the amount and level of the necessary content? What resources are required, and whether these resources are available? So you have to, if you are able to answer to these questions, then the analysis phase, that part is very easy. Next comes the design phase. So after planning, you have to chart out a design. This stage is also known as structuring phase. Here you are going to give a structure, a skeleton to the e-content development. It's also known as the blueprint phase. So here, the design phase deals mainly with the learning objectives, the various objectives that the particular topic is about to cover, the various assessment instruments like tests, quiz, then discussions. So what are the different assignments? So exercises, then you will work on the content, then the subject will be analyzed, that is subject matter analysis, then lesson planning, then media selection. The media should be selected. That is whether you are going to share with the social media or YouTube or any other divergent or any other alternative methods of platform. So the design of the content, chapters and modules, then platform of the delivery come within the purview of design phase or the structuring phase. And the frequently asked questions in design phase: how will the content and activities be sequenced, presented, and reinforced? Then, what are the main objectives of each session or unit? What skills or outcomes are you hoping to achieve for each? What methodology will you use to achieve each objective? What media resources will be used in the instruction? How will you assess the students' understanding of the matter? So what we have seen here is when we move from the analysis phase, that is the first phase, to the design phase, the responsibilities of the person who develops the content becomes little more complicated and becomes little more enlarged. So in the planning phase is not as complicated as the design phase, but in the design phase, you need to answer a series of questions, and with these answers, you will be able to move on to the next phase. And which is the next phase? That is the development phase. So this phase is said to be the soul of the e-content development, because it is in this phase that you develop the e-content, the real, actual e-content. So in this phase, we undertake the actual production or development of the content design with the help of the multimedia tools like text, audio, video, etc. So here we have to fix. So earlier we have set forth our learning objectives. We have planned the delivery medium, then the platform to be delivered, then the various other things related to the e-content. But here we are going to fix the particular chapter upon which we are going to develop the content. So we have to, after preparing the chapter, the key points from the chapter, we have to prepare the video, and we have to record the lecture using camera. Then we have to create and assemble the contents that were already charted in the design phase. And if possible, you can even make use of storyboards. The content is written, you can insert the graphics to as an additional to this content. And these are the questions asked in the development phase. How do I create a lesson plan? How should you know that the lesson plan has each and every aspects, right from the beginning of before taking the lesson, and ultimately after giving tests to the students, the learning outcomes as well. So how do I create a lesson plan, and how should the content be organized? What instructor and student activities should be included? How do I provide practice for the students? Yes, whether it is in the form of exams or whether assignments or homeworks. So you should also provide practice for the students. So mere delivery of the content is not alone sufficient. You have to include practices as well. What media should I use when teaching? How can I present the conforming and corrective feedback? These are the major questions covered in the development phase. And next is the testing phase, which is yet another important phase, because once you prepare the e-content, you feel a sense of satisfaction, self-satisfaction. But you may not notice the mistakes you committed in the preparation of the e-content. The mistakes, that is, the proper e-content can be administered by checking the clarity of the pictures. Suppose you have inserted pictures in your e-content slide or e-content document, but the pictures are not clear, then there is no point in including such a picture. You can either replace the picture or you can insert another picture. So sometimes spelling errors or spelling mistakes may creep into your presentation. So you have to rectify those spelling errors, grammatical errors. Then you have to insert appropriate audios and hyperlinks if necessary. Audios are not always necessary, but only if necessary, you can insert all these features. And finally, what you have to do is you have to transfer this content prepared by you to some of your colleagues or to some of the experts in these fields, so that they may go through it and they will give you their valuable comments and feedback. So testing phase is very important. Even until or up to this phase, you haven't delivered it to your students. You have just planned everything in the analysis phase. You have structured your planning, or you have structured a little bit elaboratively in the design phase. You have developed the actual e-content. You have tested the e-content with some of your colleagues or friends. And what comes next? Next is the implementation phase. So in the implementation phase, you are actually going to implement it. You are going to install and use the content after redesigning and revisioning. Yes, here also you are once again going through the entire content, because once you deliver the content and once it reaches the large group of students or the targeted audience, it's not possible to make changes. So the piloting, that is testing, is done to ensure the usability and quality of the content. And here you will check the content delivery platforms, whether it is through LMS, learning management software like Moodle, you might be familiar with this, then Google Classroom or Canva or WhatsApp or YouTube, whichever it may be. Then during the implementation phase, the procedure for training the facilitators and learners is also developed. It's not as necessary and essential that all the students will have a good guidance with using Moodle or Google Classroom. So it's also necessary that if you are using a particular LMS like Moodle or any other LMS, a proper training should be given to the learners. And the teachers also require training because the access to these Moodle, I know that it takes you to different stages for which a proper training is necessary. So that should also be taken into account. And these are the major questions you asked in the implementation phase. How do I motivate students? How do I introduce the lesson? What kinds of questions are best to use? How do I use the PowerPoint slides or other presentation media? How do I summarize and review each lesson or presentation? How do I use my time wisely during the lesson? So these are the major questions being covered by the implementation phase. And the last phase, but not the least, is the evaluation phase. So this phase is all about collecting feedback from the learners. So now you deliver the content and it's time to gather feedback from the learners who are going to listen it, or from your peer group or from the instructors. So tests and assignments can be posted using Google Classrooms, Hot Potatoes, Google Forms. Google Form is something that we frequently use to collect information to give tests to the students. So as such, we are going to analyze whether the objectives clearly stated in the analysis as well as the design phase have reached to these targeted audience or not. So these discoveries also include the objectives as well as the expectations of the learner. It is from the evaluation phase that you can easily understand that whether the content being prepared by you, that is the e-content, the so-called e-content, has been disseminated or has been effectively to the target audience. So these are the questions asked in the evaluation phase. How do I know if my course has been successful? Which expert should review the materials before the course is presented to the students? Which changes should be made to improve the course after it is presented? So even after you present it, if you come up with a negative feedback, you should be in a position, if it is true, that you should be able to improve, or you should be able to make necessary additions when you prepare the e-content, same e-content next time. And from this slide onwards, I will be sharing some of the best practices of e-content development. So we have seen the different stages of e-content. We have seen what is e-content, the different phases of e-content. Now we are going to analyze minutely about the various aspects or the best practices of e-content development. So one is the creation of visual images. So visual images play a very important role in developing e-content. Hope you remember that one of the characteristic feature of a good e-content is the visual or pleasing outlook. So how can you create, or what is the role or significance of creation of visual images? So the images, so whatever image you're trying to insert in your e-content, it should have clarity. This is very important, as well as the subject chosen, whether it is text, whether it is a picture, or whether even you divide the content into several titles or subtitles, everything, whatever appears visually should have clarity. Then rule of thirds is another important principle that you must remember. That is, graphics should not cover 1/3 of the content. It should not be lesser and not at the center. If you are giving too much importance to these visual aspects, the audience will never feel to read the other part of your content. So you can use graphics, or you can use the visual images in such a way that it seems to support your primary content or text. Then you can use, instead of using the dark colors, you can use natural light. And similarly, make sure that your graphic image is very clear in the e-content platform. Before delivery, you have to make sure enough contrast between the graphic image as well as the other text of the content platform. And you can even choose the complementary colors and get familiar with the color wheel. For instance, I have provided here an example, that is Canva color wheel. You can browse the Canva color wheel in the Google, and you will be taken to a page where you will be getting a picture like this, where you can choose a particular color. You can pick a color and you can choose the color combination, and you can insert in the concerned slide for that matter. And always try to remember to keep your graphics as simple as possible. Don't make it complicated. So if the graphical part, if it is too much attractive, less attention will be gone to the text or the content part. So the delivery of the content is very important. To make the content a little bit visually appealing, we have to make use of the graphics. Then pexels.com is another software through which you can search. You can visit this website, pexels.com, where you can search for the topic. You can select the picture. You can download it for free, and if necessary, you can even modify. So inserting the adequate pictures in support of the documents or in support of various things, that is very important. Next, creation of presentations. So here, if you are preparing a presentation, for instance, a PPT slide, you have to keep the layout very simple. Similarly, overcrowding of words and sentences can be avoided, because instead of writing, or instead of preparing your slides with short sentences or full sentences, for instance, you can pick out the keywords. Just I have placed out here. You can pick out the keywords, you can insert the keyword, and you can explain it. So that gives a very good appealing way of presentation. Then animations, you can use animations, but again, just like graphics and images, you have to limit your animations. Definitely you can make use of audio and video to make it more interactive. Then PowerPoint is considered to be the king in presentation, as for in our case, especially for the postgraduate or the in undergraduate, or whichever the classes may be. If you prepare the content and deliver it using a PowerPoint, so the transmission degree is more rather than using a lecture method. Then Prezi. So Prezi is another software where you can visit the Prezi site. For instance, you can watch their PPTs, you can type the topic, and you can search for the topic relevant to your subject, and you will get all the created PPT formats in the Prezi format, using the Prezi slides. And even you have a PPT with you, you can convert it into a Prezi presentation. Then we have Canva, another software to create the presentation with visuals, and you can collaborate it as well. Now comes the creation of videos. So here you have to pick a topic. So you're going to create a video. So for this, you have to fix a topic. You have to choose a format for the content screen. For the content, you have to choose a format for the content. Then the screen can be recorded using screen recorder software. So you can make a script or a storyboard. You can record using the software. Then even after recording, you can edit It is possible to edit. You can review the work. And once you review the work and you feel that the work is free from errors or any other mistakes, you can produce it, you can host on YouTube, Facebook, and you can share with the larger audience, larger group of people. Then creation of animation. So we know that animation is actually an art or a process whereby the inanimate objects are given life. For this, the overuse of animation is not mandatory for the e-content. And if you are good at using animation, you can use it, but it should be minimal. And the sample software that helps you to create a good animation is Animaker. It's a platform for beginners, non-designers, and professionals to create animation. You can definitely try Animaker. And next we have blogs. So blogs are also the effective platforms for the transmission of e-content. So while creating the blog, what are the important aspects that you must keep in mind? You have to give a title to the content. You have to keep it as simple as possible. You have to write with originality. Don't imitate from or don't copy from other blogs. You have to write with originality, and here also checking is very important. So pilot it before you post. Be consistent in your post. So you can, it's not just like posting a blog on one particular month, and after 1 year you are posting the second one. So it's not just like that. You have to keep updated, and you can allow comments from the or feedbacks from the recipients. So WordPress is a free website to start blogging. Next is the creation of podcast. So podcast is a series of audio files that are hosted online. And here as well, we need to choose a topic. We have to give the name for the podcast. We have to decide the format and length, write the script and rehearse before recording, and take the microphone and you can start recording. So whether you record your audio or whether you capture the screen, and that is you record your video, it's necessary that you have to prepare the script, or you have to you have to undergo a thorough preparation. So that shows your fluency in articulating or your efficiency as an effective teacher. So you have to be consistent, and the requirements for a good podcast is the effective communication skills as well as the good recording software. You can make use of these two softwares. So Audacity and Buzzsprout. Audacity is a free software that can be downloaded and export as MP3 file, and Buzzsprout helps to host, promote, and track your podcast. And here I will be giving you the various other examples under different headings. You can try these tools, the e-content, which helps you to develop e-content. E-learning authoring tools like Articulate, Adobe Captivate, iSpring. Then if you are planning to include quiz, you can make use of these tools like Quizlet and Socrates. The learning platforms, we have Moodle, Edmodo, Coursera, Blackboard Learn, through which you can share the e-content to the respective classes or group of students. And we have the educational tools, TED Talks. We are familiar with these TED Talks being hosted, the interesting and motivational video sessions, then VoiceThread. Then next we have the photo tools like Adobe Photoshop, Flickr, audio tools like Audacity, video tools like YouTube and Vimeo, animation tools like Animoto, Woki, Powtoon, and Render Forest, screen capture tools like Jing Screener, Screencastify. Using Screencastify, it provides for a 5 minutes free recording. Then we have Screencast-O-Matic, FreeCam, Cam Studio. Then we have video editing tools. And these are the communication tools, the messaging tools. You can make use of Skype and WhatsApp. For webinar and web meetings, you can make use of GoToMeeting, WebEx. Then survey tools, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey. Then MCQ for creation of multiple choice questions. You can rely on Kahoot and Mentimeter. Then we have these networking tools like public social networks and private social networking platforms. Public social networks, we have Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Then private social networking platforms, Yammer, Edmodo, Ning. And recently, we have this Chat GPT, which came out in the last year, that is somewhere around November 2022. It's an artificial intelligent software chat which denotes a chatbot. Then GPT, that is generative pre-trained transformer. That's a language model which is highly creative, and it provides a vast, it touches and provides and shares a vast arena of information. That is Chat GPT. And here I'm going to provide a basic sample framework based on the topic. And how I'm going to prepare e-content. You can watch right now. So this is, I have taken an empty slide, and definitely I should give a topic. So from the vast area of the available resources, I'm going to fix a particular topic. The topic I have chosen here is closely connected to my discipline, that is English language and literature. I have chosen travel literature, so I must state it in the beginning itself. Next, I am going to add some images very relevant to the travel literature. Yes. Now, next I'm going through the 6 different phases. So, which we have discussed in the beginning of the presentation. That is the analysis. The first phase, you remember, is the analysis phase, where I will be focusing on 2 aspects. That is need analysis and target analysis. So, what is my need analysis to choose the topic travel literature? It is a less explored one, but it is having more impact, because only when you take less explored areas, yes, it is likely to create more impact. If it is much explored or wider explored, it's not going to create a good impact. So I have chosen this area, and further it is a very promising area for future research. And my target analysis is the postgraduate students, PG students. And next is the design, where I'm going to prepare a lesson plan. So here I will be defining travel literature. I will be going through the history of travel literature. I will be touching upon the topics like types of travel writing and readership of travel literature. And what is the media selection that I have made over here? PowerPoint. I'm going to prepare this e-content and deliver to my PG students through PowerPoint. Next is the development. So development is the actual preparation of the content. So here I'm going to assemble and create the contents topic wise. So in the design phase, I have just charted out the layouts, the framework, but here I am going to prepare the detailed guidelines under each topic. And finally, I have to fix the count of the slides. That also matters. Then I will add the necessary images and animations to my slide. Now comes the testing phase. So here I have to check whether I made any grammatical or any other mistakes related to the slide. So I'm going to test whether the hyperlink is working or not, whether the animation is properly having the effects. So I will send it to my colleagues or any other person whom you wish, and I will check whether they can see the slides one after the another, and I will ask them to frankly respond with their feedback. Then next, implementation. I'm going to deliver. So before delivery, that is at the outset, I will introduce myself. The audience must know who is going to deliver the content. And if possible, if it is a program like this FDP or something else, some conferences, definitely you have to acknowledge the host or the organizers. And finally, you have to deliver the final content, give time for question and answer sessions as well. Now, next is the evaluation. So this is a continuous improvement stage or a self-analysis stage. So for that, you will provide the survey link to after the session comes to an end. You will post a survey link to capture the feedback, and you can also even share the answers to the questions that were not completed during delivery. So this is the evaluation part. Now we have come to the outcomes of e-content development. So from this, the different facets of e-content development for teaching, let me briefly bring out the outcomes. And I can say that these are the successful outcomes of e-content development. Creation of information-rich society through mastering of ICT skills. Obviously, the e-content development with the help of these ICT skills create an information-rich society. So the 21st century society is deeply enrooted in ICT skills, but we can make them more adaptive and flexible to ICT skills through e-content development. Now, digital teaching for a digital generation. Yes. So the teaching, as teachers, we need to shift from the traditional teaching to digital teaching, because our targeted audience is not the traditional children, but a group of digital audience. Now, new concepts like flipped classrooms, then MOOC or hybrid learning, all such are the complementary outcomes of e-content development. So flipped classrooms, that's a kind of blended learning, hybrid learning or flipped classrooms, but blended learning, where students will be introduced to a particular content at home itself, either through video or text. And the next day, the teacher will ask the student to practice. Maybe some assignments will be given, some discussions or some tasks will be given. So the teaching part will be carried out earlier, and it need not be necessarily inside the physical walls of the classroom. So this is the era of hybrid learning, as well as flipped classrooms. And learning at self-paced rate is another outcome of e-content development. Yes, the students can learn at their own self-pace. Updated and quick delivery of e-content. So the knowledge and the information keep on updating. So it is very necessary as teachers. We must also need to update with our existing knowledge. We cannot, just like the traditional notes, we cannot take the notes that we studied during our UG or PG to the classrooms, even after 10 or 15 years. It's not just like that. We have to keep ourselves updated, and we have to make necessary changes while preparing e-content. You can include the recent additions or recent innovations regarding the topic. Then ultimately, the e-content development will create a learner-friendly and learner-centric atmosphere. So the learners, it's meant for creating a good rapport with the learners, and the learner-centric is the main motto of e-content development. And at the conclusion, I must say that e-content development is the heart of teaching and learning process. Now it has swept into the teaching process and learning process simultaneously, and it has occupied a very major role and position in teaching and learning process. Earlier, it was somewhere near the periphery or at the borders, but now it has really come and dominated the center of the teaching learning process. And as such, there is no way for teachers like us to step outside, but rather to dwell and to submerge more into the e-content development. And it fosters e-learning in a dynamic and innovative way. There is a newness behind the development of e-content, and it also enables us to learn in a dynamic way. And sorry, it is very environmental friendly way of teaching. Instead of hard copies or physical copies, we make use of PPTs, we make use of text, Microsoft Word documents, MS Word documents. Then we make use of PDF, portably portable documents. Then so it's very environment friendly way of teaching. And finally, it promotes an inclusive education. It's just why I use the word inclusive here is that, yes, it includes as many group as possible. Even if you want to share the same e-content apart from your targeted audience, it is possible. You can share with the students of other colleges or other institutions. So it does not make any kind of discrimination, or it does not, you can share to as many group. Here we are not excluding but rather including, and our motive is to make our e-content reach to as many people as possible. So it comes under inclusive education. So that's all about my presentation. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Thank you.